So before we continue our discussion on postfix prefix, we'll quickly go over the quiz questions. I hope this tab is visible to people. If not, please let me know. So this was one question about what does the following list function print, right? So what is the answer to this? Are there answers in the chat? I hope some of you have answered the question. Index of last occurrence of val, print the last possible index value of occurrence. Right. So this is very similar to what we had for finding an element, right? So you are going over the list, and then if the value is the same, then we are storing that into STH, right? So and that STH is getting printed. So it's possible that the STH, I mean, that value is not present in the list, in which case we don't print anything. Otherwise, we print the occurrence of that particular value, the index, right? So because II is going from 0, 1, 2 like that in the list. But this doesn't break here, and it doesn't return here, and therefore it will go on continuing throughout the list, and whatever is the last index of whatever is the last occurrence of that particular val, that node's index is going to get printed, right? Any questions on this one? Okay, so this was relatively simple, but just that you should be aware of identifying what is happening. Many of the questions which have these short answers, this could not be checked automatically, right? So those I need to go through manually, and then I'll update the marks, etc. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, so for this postfix expression, what is the maximum length of the stack? Okay, many of you are saying 6. Okay, so essentially that is going to be 5, 6, and then when plus comes, that is going to get one value is going to get pushed, that is 11. Right, after that 7, 2 will get pushed, and then 7, 2 will be removed, and then 5 will get pushed. So now it will have 2 elements, 11 and 5. After that, these 4, 5, 9, 3 operands are going to get pushed, and then all of those are going to get removed. So at any point in time, the maximum is going to be 2 plus 4, 6. Okay, so that sounds good. I hope that was not difficult. But if some of you did not understand what was asked or could not solve the question, I hope you got a feel for where we are lacking in terms of our preparation. And in case there is something which I have not described properly, please let me know. Right. Okay, so consider a singly linked list. Okay, are there any other concerns, questions? Okay. Then singly linked list where each node stores X or Y or Z. List is Z palindrome if it has odd number of nodes and it is of the contains exactly one Z. So it might be some string W followed by Z followed by WR, that is the W reverse. If that is the case, then we have to print we have to print yes or no. So what is this? I think this got converted into a smiley. Anyway, I'll have to look at your answers, but essentially what is the way in which this can be solved? Any suggestions? Okay, Vishwa says using a stack. Any other suggestions? Or anybody wants to agree with Vishwa? Go to the middle element, then reverse the list, and after that check with the first half. Okay, that is also another way. Pawan says using a stack, push all elements into a stack, pop and check. Finally check if Z is present. Okay. If you push all the elements, might be a little tricky. Or maybe you are checking with the list as well as the stack, both of them. It's possible. Vishnu has given the code. I have to understand this code offline. I'll do that. Chhaya says first check if length of the list is odd. Okay, sure. Sai Charan says initialize variables count and length as 0. Run a loop to traverse the list. Increment length of each run of the loop to get the total length. Okay, also increment count when you encounter Z at the end of this loop. If Z is not equal to 1, return 0. Is equal to 1, run another for loop 0 to length by 2 and traverse. Sure. So I can see that there are multiple ways in which you guys have addressed this particular problem or solved this particular problem. And as long as your algorithm seems correct, takes care of all the cases, etc., that should be okay. I'll go through each of the answers a little carefully. Murari says reverse and check and number of Z equal to 1. I see. Okay. Can you allow review in Moodle to view our answers? I'll do that. I'll do that. After I have gone through all the answers, I'll do that. In fact, I'll also set whatever are the model answers, and those need not be the only answers. Of course, your marks will get updated according to whether it is correct or not because whether it is matching to model answer or not. Answer number of elements equal to odd. Okay, so I hope that some of you are able to think of different answers, but one of the answers could be, for example, as Vishwa was saying, that you go over the list, right, once, and let's say the list is 1, 2, 3, Z, 3, 2, 1, right? So 1 you push to the stack, 2 to push to the stack, 3 you push to the stack, and then as soon as you encounter Z, you stop pushing into the stack. Then you go to the next element, which is going to be 3. So you pop the element from the stack and 3. If these match, you are good, go ahead. Then you match the next popped element and next list element 2, 2. Then you look at the next one. As long as finally the stack is empty and the list is over, then it is Z palindrome, otherwise it is not. Aniruddha says reverse list in another and store it in another list. Traverse both to see if they match. Yes, find n by 2 plus 1 element should be Z. Sure. Push elements up to Z into stack, the check with stack for the other half. If same pop the element, it's not palindrome. Sure. So all of these seem to be reasonable approaches, and I will carefully look at them to give you marks appropriately. Okay, sounds good. Okay, Anish is saying, sir, Moodle didn't give the option of writing multiple lines. It wasn't very convenient to write in one straight line. If there is another way, next time it would be nice. Just a session. Sure, Anish, I take it. I think one of you has also sent me that the code was written on the same line. It was not spread across multiple lines. So I think this might be an issue because I have chosen short answer as the type of the question. Maybe I should choose a paragraph or long answer for this such kind of questions. I'll do that from next time. Thanks for that. Good. Any other concerns here? Okay. So we'll move to the next one. Consider an array declared 573 of my class. If my class is 100 bytes and the address of the first element is 0, what's the address of 432? Right. So this was again something which we have discussed in the class, just that you had to plug in the values. So what is the answer to this one? 9500. Okay. That's going to be the address of the ARR of 432. And how do you find that out is essentially you just need to know that 4 needs to be multiplied by 7 into 3. Right? So when you are in the third dimension, you need to worry about the first 2 dimensions. Then for 3, that 4 into 7 into 3, then 3 into 3, right? So this 3 into the one dimensional 3 plus 2, right? And all of this needs to be multiplied by 100 and added to the base address, which is 0. Therefore, you will get the value of 9500. That seems to be all right. Anybody has any issues with that? Anybody faced any issues, could not do? Maybe we didn't discuss enough in the class. Any suggestions you have? Maybe what I'll do is I'll take a quick poll, not poll, but take a quick feedback. I mistakenly wrote 95. Will that be accepted? I think maybe I'll give you partial marks for that. I'll take a look at the answer. I'll probably give partial marks. I took the whole size as 100. Whole size of the class, my class is 100. That's cool. So did 95 upon 105 into 100. Okay, I'll have to look at this, Madhur. Yeah, anybody wants to say anything?
Sir, can you explain that line? My classes.
Oh, that is just size of my class, right? If you do something like size of my class, then that should give you whatever is the number of bytes required for that particular class, right? So this is same as size of int or size of char, etc. Right? So size of my class will give you size of that structure.
It's the size of element.
Size of the element, yeah, that is the my class. Yes. So it is declared as this, right? So therefore each element is of type my class, isn't it? Did I make a mistake?
Sir, I think some people are thinking my class is an array type, and the whole array size is 100 bytes.
Oh, I see.
But that is not possible because fractional bytes are not.
I see. Oh, I see. Oh, that's a little misinterpretation. But I thought that this would make it clear. But anyway, I think I'll take a look at your answers. Let's see what are the common mistakes. I'll discuss those also later. But yeah, that seems to be a misinterpretation of this. Anyway, so okay, looks like there are multiple of you who have taken this to be in a different way. Okay. Okay. So any other concerns here? All right. So we'll move ahead. Yeah. So this was the complexity question, something very similar to what we had done in the class, not exactly in this form, but in a different form, in a recursive form, so to say. So this was iterative version of that. So the complexity is log n to the base 3 or log n, whatever you have given. Either of these should be. So Murari says theta of log n, that is also okay, no problem. Okay. All right. Then yeah, this was list manipulation, and you had to essentially do a hard work on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so there was some manipulation happening, which was not very intuitive, maybe I should say, but this was more to get you understand how to understand the given code, and that too in a recursive manner. So hopefully some of you are able to find out the answer. What was the answer to this? What is the output of this program? What is the list? 214365. Okay. Saichan is asking what is when to use theta. Theta is when it is both bounded, upper bounded as well as lower bounded. So then only we use theta. Otherwise, we usually talk about only the upper bound, the worst case bound, right? So that is order big O notation. Niruddha is asking, actually, does tightest analysis mean big theta or big O? Tightest analysis only on one side is big O. Tightest analysis on both sides is big theta. Mrutyunjay says it swaps the pairwise elements. That is correct. So actually it is doing that. If you have actually figured this out, that it actually swaps the pairwise elements and then interpreted the answer, that is very good. I was not sure if all of you got it, so I didn't mention. But that is what the code is actually doing. And I mean, you must have seen it after a couple of rounds of checking. But if you did the whole hard work and found out the answer, that is also fine. But if you did it by checking if the pairwise elements are getting added or not, swapped or not, that is probably better, in my opinion. Nikhil is saying 1356. So is it? I have forgotten what was the answer to this. I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah, one of the answers. I'll check that. Yeah, so right now I'll have to look up. I don't remember which one is the correct answer. Anish says that. Yeah.
For this question, could you go back to the code?
Yeah.
So this function is there, no sir. So this takes in head as an argument, but the actual head of the point will not change, right?
Actual head will. Correct.
So when we print, it should start printing from 1 onwards only, right? The head will stay at 1.
Yes, sir. I was facing this similar issue. Whether should we take the return of this node point function, or should we take the head? But I did the reverse only, like 2143.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, that is okay. The following function is called with head as a parameter after which the.
So if we normally start printing with the thing, it will print from 14365.
Yeah. That return head should be. I mean, I should have given that this gets called as head equal to quiz1, or whether it gets called just as quiz1. I see. I understand the point. Sure. I understand that.
So yeah, so the answer will
Answer
appropriately
will change out depending upon that. I agree.
One first element will get missed.
Yeah. Okay. What I'll do is I'll probably give marks to both these answers. That should be all right. That is not a problem. I agree with that. That this should have been specified clearly how the function is called. I agree. Yeah, I missed that point. Correct. Sure. Thanks for pointing that out. Good. So Anish is asking, tightest means worst case complexity or could be strict lower or upper bounds on complexity. Okay, so let's understand this point a little carefully. We said that if, let's say, linear search in an array is order n, we can as well say that it is n log n, order n log n, or big O of n square, or big O of n cube, or big O of 2 to the power n. All of these are upper bounds, right? And therefore, but these are not all tightest. The tightest one is order n. So tightest also applies to worst case complexity. Right? Your worst case complexity might be loose, the way we said n square for the linear search. So tightest doesn't necessarily mean it is both bounded. But if it is both bounded, it better be tight. Right? So you cannot have something like when you say theta of fn, that necessarily means that it is upper bounded as well as lower bounded by that particular complexity. Right? So it better be tight. So therefore theta is usually valued much more and it provides much more information than big O. However, as I was saying, tightest does not necessarily mean that it is theta. Tightest can be for worst case complexity also, for the lower bound also. That is also possible. Pawan says, I tried executing the function, the output was 14365. Yeah, I think it will depend upon whether we are taking the head as the return parameter or not, whether you are changing the head or not. Right, so I'll check this. Don't worry. I have checked it only one way. I have the code, but I'll check this and give the marks appropriately. If I don't give the marks, you will have the option of coming back to me and saying that I have not given you the marks, right? So don't worry. We'll make the marks also and the answers also public. Yeah, Aniruddha is saying, Pawan, yeah, that is because head won't change and print. Okay, that sounds good. Any other concerns here? Right, so I missed that point here. Good, thanks for pointing it out. The following code recursively counts the number of nodes. This was fill in the blank. So it should be easy now that you have done the assignment as well as have worked with linked lists enough. So this should not be a difficult one. 1 plus count node of head next, right? So some of you might have written 1 plus, some of you might have written count node plus 1. Either way should be okay. So it's just that the Moodle will probably look for a particular text. Will give you marks to some of you and might not give you. So I'll again have to manually go through the answers and give you. That will take some time, but I'll try to do it as soon as possible. Okay. Any other concerns, questions? Murari, you have a question?
Oh, no, sir. Sorry, I think it was my mic was off.
No problem. Okay, so this was relatively simple. Then, yeah, this was a little tricky in my opinion. Consider the following algorithm with some elements of an integer array. So A is some expression and B is some expression, and there seems to be some problem with the emoticons. But I hope you were able to figure this out, that this was T of n. So what is the value of A here? What should be the parameters that should get passed? ARR, X and Y. Okay, so, okay, and B seems to be return if X equals Y, then ARR of X. Otherwise, A sum of ARR XZ plus A sum of AR. Okay, sure. Sure. Okay, good. So if X is okay, so let's understand how it is doing the sum of the elements of an array. It's a binary, well, not binary, but divide and conquer type of mechanism where you have some arguments passed to a sum, and then if X greater than Y, so X and Y seem to be unknown, so those have to be coming as parameters. And the array should also be passed as a parameter. And what these X and Y's are essentially the bounds of the array. So initially it is going to get called as 0, n minus 1. Right? So A, that is the array, 0, n minus 1. And if that lower bound is greater than the upper bound, then return 0, that means the sum is 0. Otherwise, we take the middle point. Why do we take the middle point? Because we are now going to sum only the half of the array, but we need to do it both sides, the left as well as the right, as well as we need to take care of the middle element, that is Z. And therefore, return B is going to be given as a sum of the left-hand side, which is going to be from X to Z minus 1. The right half, which is going to be Z plus 1 to Y, and the middle element, which is going to be that array of Z. Right? So these three parts need to be there. I was just wondering, do we need to really give this condition? I mean, this condition is okay, it doesn't harm, but I was just wondering whether it needs to give this X equals Y, then return ARR of X. Because even if you don't have that condition, it will, the ARR ASUM, I mean the recursive calls are going to return 0. Right? So I think it should not be a problem even if we do not give that condition. But even if you have given the condition, it's okay. Doesn't harm anything.
Sir, if we don't give, then it will always be 0, right? It will never change from 0. That is the base case, right?
The base case is this one. I mean, base case can be given with x greater than y also. Right?
Yes, sir. So it will only, the only base case that is possible is 0. So we can add only zeros. It will never give the sum of the arrays. So it will be 0 plus 0 plus 0.
No. We are also adding a of z, right? So we are saying the final call is going to be a of z plus 0 plus 0. I hope that is possible, right? Or am I missing something?
Could you type out like what you mean? Because with the conditional it is different.
Yeah, sure. So we have this, whatever Murari has written, right? So the last chat message, a sum of ARR x z minus 1, a sum of ARR z plus 1 to y, and ARR of z, right? So that will be interpreted as 0 plus 0 plus a of z. Right? So therefore, it will give you the a of z as the final value. That is going to get added. That is going to get written as ARR of something. I mean, sorry, a sum of something. So it will not always be 0. That's what I'm saying. Anish is asking if x equals y, then it will call ARR of x. Yes, correct. The last two being 0. Exactly. That is what I was thinking. But I'll check. I have the code. So I'll check both ways. I think it will work either way. Shania is asking b equals ARR of x, ARR of some ARR xz plus a. I think that will not work because a of z will get counted twice. Right? So it will give a wrong value is what I think. Right? Okay, that's fine. I think both the things should work. That whether you have this x equals y condition or not, it should work out. In fact, the way I had checked the code was without this condition, so I think it works. With this condition also it works. I don't see a problem. But we have to make sure that we are counting each element exactly once. Okay. Any other concerns here? All right. So let's come to the last question. The following algorithmic processing on an empty integer stack. Right. So then this is just a manipulation of stack, and we wanted to check if you have understood this with respect to when what happens. Right. So what is the output of this code? (1061). I see. Okay. So some elements get pushed, some elements do not get pushed, some elements get removed and added at something else. So all of this, finally, when you do hard work of going through it, it gives this. Okay, so that completes our discussion on the quiz. Sir, by mistake, I wrote it in the opposite order. Will it be accepted? Stack. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'll accept that. I'll have to take a look. Okay, let's explain this question. Okay, so we are going from 1 to 10. If I is odd, which is the case for I equal to 1, then we push it to the empty stack, so 1 gets pushed. Right, so then else part is not executed, so we don't come here. If I is divisible by 3, which is not the case, so we go to the I equal to 2, right? So the stack contents is 1. Now when I is 2, it is not odd, it is not divisible by 4, it is also not divisible by 3, therefore nothing happens for I equal to 2. Then I equal to 3, it is odd, so we push 3. So now the stack contents are 1, 3. And it is, so else part doesn't get executed. If it is divisible by 3, then we pop 3 plus 1, that is 4, and we push it. So now the stack content should be 1 and 4. Am I correct up to this point? 1, 4?
Yes, sir. I understood what you are saying. A small doubt. Does
Yeah.
s1.pop also stores that value?
Does S1 dot?
Like I had the confusion in syntax. S1 dot pop. I thought it just removes and doesn't store. Like, is S1
Store.
dot pop equals to 3, or it just removes the value and then leaves the stack as it is?
So in that STL stack won't return anything.
Yeah. But this is not really C++ syntax, right? This
Yes.
will assume. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's a little bit.
It is like top first and then pop later.
Yeah, we cannot perform plus operation on that, or we cannot
Yes.
just print it, right? Unless it returns a value. I'd probably say that it was kind of misinterpretation of that. Yeah, but yeah, this has to return a value.
Okay, sir. Assuming it gets written, can you please continue explanation?
Yeah, sure. So now stack contains 1 and 4 for I equal to 3. When I equal
Sir,
to 4.
3 will be there now.
Sorry, what?
3 is also pushed in first if condition.
We'll push 2, you are saying?
No, we will push 3 also in data stack.
Yes, we push 3 here, and then because it was divisible by 3, we popped it, added 1, so it becomes 4, and then we push that 4.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yeah. So now stack contains 1, 4. When I equals to 4, I is not odd, so it gets to the else part. I is divisible by 4, yes, and therefore 4 gets popped from the stack, and it is not divisible by 3. So now the stack contents are 1. Then when I equal to 5 happens, I is odd, so 5 gets pushed. I is not divisible by 3. So 1, 5 is the stack content, and the same way you continue, and hopefully that 5, okay, I'll just do it for I equal to 6 also. For 6, it is not odd, it is not divisible by 4, but it is divisible by 3. Therefore, we take out the top of the stack, which is 5 plus 1, 6, and that gets pushed, so it stack contents become 1, 6, right? And similarly, the next thing will happen for divisible by 3, which is 9. So at that time, you will remove 9 and add 10, and therefore the stack content should become 1, 6, 10. And that is what we print in the reverse order. So it will be 10, 6, 1. Is that okay? Any issues with that? Okay. Here partial at least, opposite order. Okay, I'll have to think about it. Because this is specifically about stack, I might be a little strict about this one, but I'll think about this. S dot pop versus S dot top, I think that was the confusion. Sure. Any other concerns here? All right. Okay. So one quick input. Did people feel that it was like time consuming, it was okay, or it was we were having too much time? Right, what is the quick reaction to that? What is your opinion? Just print it in. Too much time. Okay, some of you said too much time. Aniruddha says right time. Okay, it was fine. Right time. Okay, so nobody has so far written that it is less time. Anybody wants to do that? Yeah, so I actually designed the quiz for 1 hour, and then I realized I felt that maybe it will not be appropriate for everybody, and therefore I increased the time to 90 minutes. Thankfully, I have not gotten so far any reactions about the less time. Okay, but yeah, I'm sure that some of you must have found it that there was enough time really, and you could have probably finished it in 1 hour. Okay, time was right, difficulty level was also okay, but questions were a bit confusing, like the last question being one of those. Oh, I see. Yeah, I think this is not, I mean, this is more to get you look at it's not a design question, right? So this is more like hardware question, identify what this code is doing type of. I agree with that. I mean, there is a mix of these two. It was the right time. My time was consumed with 100 byte question due to question. Okay. Confusion. Okay. I see. Okay. Sure. All right. So I'll go through your answers, and then I'll give you the answers. I'll also post the answers, but I suppose this discussion will help me because I think there are multiple questions where there are different ways in which you have answered the questions. I'll look at that carefully. Anish is asking, we always consider byte addressable memory. Yes, that is what happens in the usual architecture. So we'll consider it that way. Mayank is asking, can you give similar types of questions for practice which came in quiz, like tutorial? So some of these things we do, I mean, whatever classwork we do, some of that is on similar lines, but not always. I mean, some of the questions that I need to give in the quiz need not always be there in the tutorials. But I take your point, and we'll do such an exercise again, right, before the quiz, so that you come to know about what are the kind of questions that I might ask. Right? Sure, we'll do that. We'll do that. Maybe just before quiz 2, we'll have a session where we go through some of these questions. Sure, we'll do. No problem. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so okay, let's come back to, we have just 14 minutes remaining. Let's come to prefix evaluation. Let me unshare the screen and share the postfix evaluation.
Sir, I had a doubt from the previous code of binary search tree. In that, we defined the class structure as tree, I mean, not class structure, this class as tree, and then in that, the constructor function was public tree colon root of null. So, could you explain what the root of null thing is?
Okay. Am I audible by any chance?
Yeah.
Screen is frozen somehow. Okay. So I didn't understand. What is tree here?
No, like we had defined that binary search tree, like we were defining the structure, the class. So in that class, we call the constructor function as tree open parenthesis, and then there was a colon root of null.
Oh, I see. No, we'll come to that tree part a little later. But essentially, what this means is that it is initializing. It is saying root equal to null inside the opening and closing brace of that function in that constructor.
Oh,
that is just a different syntax in C++ using which it can you can initialize multiple variables. We have done that, I think, in one of the
yeah. I mean, I couldn't find the code which we used.
Postfix.
Correct.
Postfix, right.
Yeah. So it's essentially initialization. So don't worry. I mean, there is a little difference that it gets invoked before the body of the constructor gets executed. So that is the reason why that syntax is a little different, which might be required in some cases. But for our purposes, just assume that we have that root equal to null inside the body of the function. Okay, somehow my laptop is stuck. I might have to. Okay, nothing is happening, so I might have to log out and log in. Sorry about that. Or I might have to reboot the machine.
So also, the one of the quiz questions we were telling head. Okay.
Yeah. Hi. Sorry, I had to. Let me just share the screen.
Sir, I just had one doubt. Like we had this quiz question where the head address could
Sorry,
be.
I need my headphones. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anish, now you can go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, like in the quiz question, like we were having the discussion, head is not changed because we just return the value. But like usually head is a private variable, right? Sorry, I mean, in the structure it's a private, variable. I think. So, when can we actually change it, and like, or is it because it's a pointer we can change it or something?
No, I think in the quiz question, it was not using the class as such, right? So it was a global function, which was quiz one, right? It was not inside any class, and therefore it was more on the C style, where we were just passing it as a variable. The private variables cannot be checked, but then if it would have been a private variable, then we would have probably assumed that it is being called from some member function of the class, and that member function is getting called from me. Yeah, so that way I think it would have worked that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other concerns, questions? Okay, so then we'll go. So this is where we were in terms of postfix evaluation, where we said that we had this algorithm to go over the expression, and if it's an operand, we do something. If it's an operator, we do something else. And we had looked at the code also. Now the question that comes up is that how do you perform the prefix evaluation, right? And one of you had answered this question while we were discussing about postfix, but I just want to now go back to this and understand and want you all to think about that what can be a way to perform prefix evaluation. So you have the operator coming now earlier than the operand. So in case of postfix, it was okay because the operator was coming later. But now the operator is coming first. So how do you identify that the operands are available? And operator doesn't mean that, I mean, assuming still binary operators, that doesn't mean that the next two elements are going to be the operands of that operator. Because there could be another operator which might be coming into picture, and you might have to evaluate that. So how do you do that is one question. And please think about this. And if you have any suggestions, please type it in the chat box. Okay. Nobody wants to answer. And in case we lose connection again, do not connect back. We'll stop the class after that. Okay, Madhur is saying add the elements in the stack. If the element is a number, check if the previous one is also a number. Then if it is, then evaluate using the operator to it, previous to it. I see. That seems to be reasonable. Sure, that seems to be reasonable. Pawan says won't doing the same thing as postfix, but from right side work. Okay, that seems to be another algorithm that instead of reading the string left to right, read the string from right to left, and essentially you will get the same answer is what Pawan is suggesting. Anybody wants to agree with that, refute that, you can do that. And they're saying push operators and numbers into the stack. Start evaluation if two consecutive numbers are encountered. Sure. And that consecutive might occur as two consecutive numbers, or you might evaluate an expression and push the element back to the stack, right? So even that could be a second number. Sure. Anish is saying, can we have an operator stack and the number stack? Okay. possible. And then what do you do? And Mrityunjay, okay, and follow Mrityunjay's. Oh, I see. Oh, I think I missed that. Mrityunjay. Maintain two separate stacks, one for operator, one for operand. In stack length equals 2 in operand, pop twice in operand, and once in operator. I see. I see. I see. That seems to be all right to me. Anybody sees any problem with this approach that Mrityunjay and Anish are suggesting?
Sir, how will
Yeah.
it return an operator? That's an issue that I'm not able to, like, it will have to return an operator, but how will that happen if there's a separate operator stack?
Why should it return an operator? I didn't understand. So as soon as the operator occurs, you just push it to the stack, right, to the operator stack. And whenever the operand stack becomes, I mean, the number stack becomes 2, the way you have written, we'll pop the first element from the operator stack, apply the operation, and put the result back into the number stack. Right, so that seems to be all right to me, unless somebody sees any problem. So we don't have to return an operator as such. We just need to, whenever we encounter an operator, we just push it to the operator stack. So the operator stack will contain probably characters or some mnemonic, whereas the number stack will contain numbers. Right, so stack int versus stack char, that could be one way in which that can be done. Murari says 2 stacks, and whenever 2 numbers come in pair, pop from operator. Yeah, so this algorithm seems to be coming along properly, and at least I don't see any problem with this. Anantu says numbers need not be consecutive. Yes, that is correct. Numbers need not be consecutive, but the first operator that needs to be applied, for that 2 numbers are going to be consecutive, right? So irrespective of how the expression is, and therefore the first operator that you will apply, even in infix evaluation, that should have both the numbers ready, assuming that it's a valid expression. And if that is the case, you will always replace that expression with another number, which will then be available for the next operator evaluation, and so on. Doesn't that seem reasonable, Anantu? For example, if there are n number of operators, n minus 1 operators may not find consecutive elements, that I agree. But one operator will definitely have 2 operands consecutively, and that will be the first operator to be applied. Aniruddha says reverse of postfix expression is not prefix. Yes, it is not. So reverse and postfix algo won't work. That need not be the case. That need not be the case. Reverse of postfix is not prefix. That is correct. But that doesn't mean that the reversing will not work. The reason being that you are actually encountering the operator when it has both the operands available, right? So when you have some expression like star plus 2, 3, 5, right? That plus 2, 3 is the one that needs to be executed first. And if you do it in the reverse order, by the time you reach plus, then you have both the operands directly available with you, right? So Anantu says, so his check for if stack length equals 0 won't work always. Oh, I see. Oh, you are talking about the stack length exactly equal to 2. I see. Yes, that seems to be correct. Yeah, it should not be always stack length equal to 2. But then when will you figure out that it should be applied? Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so let's, so I think that's a good point. In fact, Mrityunjay has given an expression plus 2 plus 3, 5. So if you push plus, then push 2. Yeah, so that seems to be correct. So looks like this algorithm will face trouble if you go from left to right, and even if you maintain two different stacks, you won't know when to apply that particular operator, because as soon as you encounter 3, you'll start applying the operator, which is not correct. Yeah, good. Thanks for that, Mrityunjay and others. This will negate the stack length. Yes. You're right. So the algorithm seems to have some issue, and this is one example which for which the algorithm needs to be fixed. Anish is saying we'll have to make sure order of operands is correct for the reverse algorithm. That is correct. You're right. A minus B instead of B minus A. That is correct. So we'll have to say that we are going to encounter val2 first and then val1 and accordingly do the operation. This is similar to when we did the postfix evaluation, right? We pushed the first operand and then the second operand. And for plus and star, it was okay because of commutativity. But for minus and slash, we said that the first operand to be pushed out is val2. And exactly similar thing is going to happen if we do the reverse traversal of the string. Correct. Salman is saying it won't work for +1 star 2 minus 3 4. It meaning the left to right. Okay. Yes. So Mrityunjay has himself given the example +2 + 3 5. Yes, you are right. So this is going to cause an issue. Anybody wants to quickly? Maybe I think we are too much out of time. So we'll stop here. But I request everybody to think about this algorithm, right? So what we are going to see is actually the right to left algorithm. But if there is a way to make left to right algorithm work using stacks, that will be awesome, right? So please think about it. We'll discuss it in our next class. Okay. So I'll stop here. But if there are any questions, we can take those up now.